Guys, we have a complete and total victory for lawful self-defense in a state that absolutely hates the Second Amendment. And this is a huge ruling. If you carry a firearm for self-defense and you train regularly, then you know that the real world happens in 360 degrees. Life does not take place on a flat range with static targets. Most of us have had classes that utilize shoot, don't shoot targets and make you think about target identification. But what if one of your rounds misses its target? Is it still self-defense? Can you be charged with first-degree murder? Well, you know, a good attorney can cost at least $500 an hour, and a great one can cost 3 to 5 times that amount easily. What if I told you you could be covered should you have to defend yourself in every single state? And you could have the best self-defense attorneys in the country working as a team on your behalf. And you can be covered the entire year for less than what most attorneys charge for an hour. And if you ever have to defend yourself, you're going to need an attorney for a lot more than 1 hour. Join Attorneys on Retainer. If you're ever targeted by the government simply for exercising your Second Amendment rights, you'll want them in your corner. If you can carry a firearm for self-defense, you'll need a legal team that actually understands your rights. Attorneys on Retainer is backed by Attorneys for Freedom, and they're the only law firm in America that specializes in self-defense cases. That's all they do. If you can reasonably and in good faith assert that you acted in self-defense of yourself or others, they'll cover you. It's that easy. They've got your back from red flag orders to self-defense claims in every single state in gun-free zones, whether a weapon was used or not. Yes, they do tasers and OC spray. And any weapon, including those not on your communist state rosters, whether or not you have a CCW permit that's valid, whether or not you have one at all, and so much more, because they believe in our right to defend ourselves. Learn more at the link down below, and for a limited time, you can save $50 off your individual plan sign-up fee or $25 off your family plan sign-up fee only by using my code GNG at the link down below. I made this QR code for you, whatever shoulder I put it over, so that you can just scan that with your phone and head on over and sign up so you can protect yourself. Plus, if you join now, you can lock in your price until 2030. And that's huge because they're always adding additional benefits to the program, and that costs money, which means prices will go up. It's part of doing business. But they're ready to fight for you and your rights when others won't. Head on over to Attorneys on Retainer and tell them Jared sent you. All right, guys and gals, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, the premier source for Second Amendment news that you won't hear anywhere else. I'm Jared, and today we're going to break down a major win for self-defense in Massachusetts. And it's one that could reshape how the law views armed citizens protecting themselves in life or death situations. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, which is the state's highest court, just ruled yesterday in Commonwealth versus Kenneth Jose Santana-Rodriguez that self-defense can apply even when an innocent bystander is tragically killed. And this is being called the transferred intent self-defense doctrine. And it's the first time Massachusetts has ever recognized it. Now, before we dive into what this means for gun owners and anyone who believes in the right to defend themselves, let's rewind to what led us to this landmark decision. In January of 2023, a licensed gun owner named Kenneth Jose Santana-Rodriguez was getting a pedicure with his girlfriend at a salon in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Another man, Irving Sanchez, who had previously been in a relationship with the same woman, walked in, started an argument, lifted his shirt to show what appeared to be a firearm, and threatened, "You know what's about to happen." Believing his life was in immediate danger, Santana-Rodriguez drew his legally owned handgun and fired 2 shots at Sanchez. Unfortunately, one of those rounds struck and killed an innocent salon employee who happened to be standing nearby. Santana-Rodriguez immediately told police he fired in self-defense, but prosecutors charged him with first-degree murder, arguing that even if he didn't intend to shoot that employee, his intent to shoot Sanchez transferred over under the legal theory of transferred intent. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, otherwise known as the SJC, had to answer two key questions. The first was, can somebody claim self-defense if they unintentionally kill an innocent bystander while defending themselves from an armed attacker? That's probably a question, if we're being real, it's probably a question that everybody who has taken on the risk of carrying a gun for self-defense, it's probably something we've asked ourselves several times, right? God forbid I have to utilize this tool to save my own life. What happens if things go bad? Number two, if so, is that a full defense, meaning total acquittal, or just a partial defense that still leaves some criminal liability? Now, these were brand new questions under Massachusetts law, and the court had never officially recognized transferred intent self-defense before. The court's answer? Yes. Lawful self-defense can excuse the killing of an innocent bystander. But if your actions were wanton or reckless, you can still be charged with involuntary manslaughter. In other words, this is not an all or nothing situation. If a person uses deadly force in legitimate self-defense, they're not guilty of murder, even if a bystander is tragically killed and dies. And can you be killed and die? I need coffee. But in their response, if their response rather was reckless or showed disregard for others' safety, then you could still face a lesser charge. Well, that's monumental. It's huge by one of the most anti-gun states in the entire union. The right to self-defense does not vanish just because of a tragic outcome, as long as that force was justified. Now let's pause and talk about what this really means for lawful gun owners. Massachusetts has some of the most ridiculous restrictive gun laws in the entire country, and historically, self-defense claims haven't always been doing well. They don't fare well in Massachusetts. But the SJC's decision explicitly acknowledges that citizens do have the right to defend themselves against a deadly threat, and that this right doesn't automatically make you guilty if an innocent person is unintentionally harmed in the process. Now, this decision brings Massachusetts in line with what the majority of other states that recognize transferred intent self-defense. Now, the court here looked at how other jurisdictions handle it, from Michigan to Georgia to Wyoming, and they found that most allowed self-defense to cover accidental deaths unless the shooter acted recklessly. It also rejected the extreme approach of Pennsylvania, which gives total immunity in every single case, meaning no liability even for reckless behavior, calling that an outlier. So in short, the Massachusetts High Court just carved out a middle ground for everybody. If you use your firearm properly in self-defense, you're protected. You better call attorneys on retainer if you do, but you're protected. And if you act recklessly and harmed a bystander, then you can still be held liable for involuntary manslaughter, but not murder. Now, that's a huge deal. It's a huge legal distinction. And it's one that could protect countless responsible gun owners who find themselves in high-stress, life-threatening situations that happen in a blink of an eye. Now, the court made some powerful points that every gun owner should know. Self-defense is not an all-or-nothing proposition. They said juries should consider the infirmity of human impulses and passions, meaning you can't expect perfect decision-making when someone's staring down a deadly threat. The court also emphasized that the law must balance two interests. Number one is the right of an individual to protect their own life, and number two, society's duty to protect innocent bystanders from reckless acts. Now, that's a remarkably balanced statement coming from Massachusetts' top court, and it shows that even in deep blue states, the principles of self-preservation and the Second Amendment still carry weight when pushed to their logical conclusion. Now, this decision sets a binding precedent for all future self-defense cases in Massachusetts. If you're lawfully defending yourself and something tragic happens, prosecutors can't automatically hit you with first-degree murder just because of transferred intent. They'll now have to prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that you acted recklessly. And that's a much higher bar for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to clear. Now, the court even created a model jury instruction telling judges to explain this doctrine clearly to juries. If the defendant acted in proper self-defense, they are not guilty. If they acted in self-defense but were wanton or reckless, jurors can convict them of involuntary manslaughter but not murder. Now, that's a big deal. It means lawful defenders now have a clearer, fairer legal path when they're forced to make a split-second decision to save their lives. I'm not advocating for making people or finding people guilty if they do decide to defend themselves, but you better have a good attorney, guys and gals. Like, make no mistake, he who represents himself represents a fool. Get AOR. Now, this ruling doesn't just affect one case. It's a statement about the value of life, liberty, and responsibility. It says that Americans have a right to protect themselves, even in a state that often tries to legislate that right away. But it also reminds us that with that right comes responsibility. Every single round that leaves our firearm is our responsibility. The SJC even cited other states' laws that use similar standards, like Tennessee, Texas, and Arizona, where self-defense remains valid unless you act recklessly. Now, in plain English, Massachusetts just recognized a version of stand your ground, at least when it comes to protecting lawful defenders who didn't mean for tragedy to happen. Now, this doesn't mean that the legal system suddenly became pro-2A overnight, but it does mean that the courts are starting to realize something we've been saying for eons. You can't criminalize survival. If someone threatens your life, you have the right to defend yourself. And if, God forbid, a tragedy does occur in the process, the question should be whether your actions were reasonable, not whether you had perfect aim. The Santana-Rodriguez decision is a huge self-defense victory, not just for one man, but for everyone who carries a firearm responsibly, and prays they'll never have to use it. If you live in Massachusetts, this is your wake-up call. The legal system is finally starting to move toward reality, but we still need to fight for laws that respect our right to self-defense without hesitation or punishment. Reach out to your legislators if you live in other states. If you live in Massachusetts, support Gun Owners Action League because they've been fighting for cases and rulings just like this. And make sure that you're covered legally before you ever have to defend yourself. Again, that's why I always recommend attorneys on retainer. They'll have your back if you're ever forced to use a firearm in self-defense or any other weapon. You can find the link down below, like I said. Save some money with my code. Don't know how long they're going to keep that running, but utilize it while you can. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit the thumbs up button, share the video, and make sure that you're subscribed to Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news that you won't hear anywhere else. My name is Jared. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you stick around. Stay safe, stay informed, stay armed, and as always, stay free. God bless you. Take care.